everyone, yasas que kalosir to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're going to be making badzaria, which is basically the lazy version of a Greek spinach pie. It's so easy to put together. It's not exactly like a spinach pie because there's no phyllo in this, and the filling is a little bit lighter and it has more of like a cake-like / bread consistency, but it is so delicious, perfect for snacking on. It keeps fresh in the refrigerator for days, so you can make a big batch of this in the beginning of the week and snack on it throughout the week. Maybe take it with you for lunch or send it with the kids. It tastes really great with soups too. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin by making the Spanakopita filling. So I have 6 scallions here. You could use between 6 to 8. Just thinly slice them all the way down to the white parts and then transfer them to a skillet, add a little bit of olive oil, and cook these over medium heat for about 3-4 minutes until they're soft and slightly golden. Next, we'll add 1 pound of baby spinach leaves. You can chop them if you want. I didn't, but you can, and it'll be a little bit easier to work with. And I'll add the spinach in a few batches, so that way it just cooks and leaves as little water as possible. Season each batch with salt and pepper. While you're cooking the spinach, cook it over medium-high heat, so that way most of that liquid can evaporate. Once the spinach has cooked down, take it off of the heat, and finally chop about half a bunch of fresh parsley and add it to the spinach mixture with a teaspoon of dry dill. If you have fresh dill, about 1/4 cup is what you need. And then I like to add a teaspoon of dried mint for some freshness. Mix that all up and then add 300 grams of feta cheese. Taste it, and if it needs more salt and pepper, you can add it at this time. Now you can add 2 eggs to this. I just like to whisk them in the side of the pan like this. Mix everything all together, and if it still seems to have lots of liquid, you could add 1 to 2 tablespoons of semolina flour to it just to kind of absorb that moisture. Set it aside, and now it's time to make the batter. So we're going to take 1 cup or 200 grams of Greek yogurt and put it in a mixing bowl, and 1/4 cup of olive oil with 2 eggs, 2 cups of water. We're just going to whisk this all up until it comes together, and of course season it with salt and pepper. Next, I'll add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of cornmeal. If you don't have cornmeal, you could use semolina flour instead, or you could do a combination of cornmeal and semolina flour. It just makes it a little bit crispier and adds some flavor. Mix that all up until the batter looks like this. Then I'll lightly grease a baking tray with melted butter, and I also like to sprinkle some semolina flour on top. It adds nice texture to the bottom of the pie. And then I'll take about 3/4 of that batter and spread it on the bottom of the pan. Top it with the spinach filling that we made. And then I'll thin out the batter a little bit and drizzle it over the top of the spinach. I do have some left over. I feel like if I add all of it, it'll just be too doughy. And then I like to take a little bit of feta cheese and crumble it over the top. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake for an hour until it's golden and slightly crispy. Once it comes out of the oven, you're going to want to let it sit at room temperature for 15-20 minutes so it can kind of settle. Then you can cut it into serving slices and it's ready to serve. Okay, so when I was recipe tasting, I came across many different versions of it, and I'll give you options in case you don't like too much of a bottom cake-like layer like we have here. Instead of doing that first layer, you can mix that batter with the spinach mixture all together and then pour it on the bottom of the pan. Definitely butter the pan really well, and then I put some semolina just like you saw in the video. It adds really nice texture to the bottom, and then the filling won't be so separated with the crust. So you can do that. You can also bake this in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. This fits. It'll be thicker. So in Greece, some people like to do this as a thick layer. Most people like to do it as a thin, crispy layer, Spanakopita. And I like the thinner layer, but I have seen it made in 9 by 13 inch baking pans, and that works too. You can even do this in little muffin tins if you want, and just if you like to freezer prep, that's a great way to make this. You would store this in the freezer and just take it out and toast them as you need them. They're so delicious. Let's do the taste test. So good. It has all the flavor of Spanakopita and like 1/4 of the work, so who would not love that? You could also add double the amount of spinach if you like. There are so many variations of making this. I'll make sure to list them all on the blog post on dimitrasdishes.com. You can head on over there to print this recipe out. Let me know if you have any special recipe requests down below in the comment section, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yasas.